Welcome to NDTR Spotlight, the corner of the internet where NDTR shine. I'm your host, Marie-Laurene. Welcome back to another podcast. I'm so excited. Today we have Ashley with us. She is a dietetic technician, and she graduated from Central Arizona. She has experience in food service, clinical, and outpatient. And I'm so excited to have her on because we're going to focus on something that is a legitimate frustration for NDTRs when you're looking for jobs and there's nothing in your area and you feel just stuck. Ashley has some really great energy and advice around remote positions for NDTRs, and she is super qualified. Even her program, when she became an NDTR, was remote. And her current position, she's a lifestyle coordinator and personal chef, where she specializes in convenient, healthy, and personalized meal prep. So, friends, I am so excited. All your excuses about not finding work close by are going to be melted away as we get to talk and get to know a little bit more about Ashley. Ashley, thank you so much for spending time with us this Saturday morning. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yes, so happy to be able to connect. Let's start just with the beginning. We love the beginning of every NDTR story, which is how did you find out about this credential and step into the journey to become an NDTR?
So when I first found out about the credential, I was working as a waitress, and I kind of got a little bit more into eating healthier for myself and exercising, which I feel like is probably how a lot of people got started in the nutrition field. So I was just kind of looking for what that would entail. I didn't really know anything about dietitians. I didn't know much about the nutrition field. So when looking at the Academy website, which is like one of the first things that pops up when you search, I found out about this credential and I absolutely love it. I'm so glad I found it.
Oh, that's such a good story when you're in food service and you're like, how can I be better for me? And then also eventually help others. And so I'm curious about your search. So you went online, you saw it, but then you ended up choosing a remote program. So what was that? What caused you to make that jump into doing something remote as opposed to waiting to find something close to you?
I was never really great with classes. I went to county college before that. I went into nutrition a little bit later into my 20s. So I already had a degree under my belt in graphic design, and I was planning on working full time. So I really wanted something that was going to be a little bit more flexible. And alongside with entering into that program, I also started working full time in a kitchen in a hospital. So that also really helped me too.
It's so important to have the food service experience when you're in the field of dietetics, because it's like our foundation. We build so much off of that. If that's broken, then we cannot do good nutrition for anybody. So you took the plunge. How did you find Central Arizona College?
I just looked on the Academy website for accredited programs, and I noticed this one. It was a little bit more in my budget since I was paying for school myself, so that was a plus. And I just really liked, when I looked at their website, what they detailed about the program. It seemed doable for me, so I applied and I got in.
So when you're talking about remote and the dietetic program, you have to do the internship, you have to find preceptors, you don't have the peers right next to you. So for those listening to this podcast and they're like, oh my gosh, yes, I want to be an NDTR, but there's no programs close to me, what would you tell them to look out for, or how to handle doing remote schooling as a diet technician?
So I would first make sure that the program you're getting into is fully remote. I noticed there was some schools and programs that they required you to still do some classes in person or some aspects of it in person. So definitely make sure it's fully remote if that's what you're looking for and if the school is far away. I live in New Jersey. This was in Arizona. So I had to absolutely make sure I didn't have to go there for any reason.
Yeah, that's very far.
Yes. And then as far as the internship, at least with my program, because I know for the dietitian program, you kind of get matched with places, you don't necessarily get to choose. So since I was in a distance program, I was able to choose. And because I was networking, already working in a hospital, I worked with the dietitians. It was way easier for me to find a place to do my internship.
There it is. That was my next question. You answered it so smoothly, because I think with the remote programs and finding your own preceptors, that is the scariest part about stepping into this. But like you said, what the work you were doing beforehand allowed those doors to open and were able to find the preceptors. What was that like working as an NDTR and precepting with dietitians in the hospital setting?
It was honestly a little bit tricky. I mean, I knew some of the dietitians I was working with. I did it at two different hospitals. So one of the hospitals I was already working at, but I was just following the dietitians. And then the other hospital, I didn't know the dietitians. I honestly feel like at that point, this was in 2017. So I feel like at that point, the dietitians really hadn't heard much about the DTR position. So they were like, what exactly do you need to be doing? Like they seemed a little bit confused, which is understandable. They're doing their own thing and they're used to seeing dietitian interns. So it was a little bit tricky, but I mean, I knew the work that I had to do. So I just kind of told them like, yeah, I don't need to be seeing this. I want to focus more on this because this is what's outlined in my program.
So really taking initiative and saying what you need to get done and then just working and communicating well with the dietitians. Mm-hmm. Was there anything in particular that really stood out in defining what path you felt like you were going to take after you completed your program during your internship?
Honestly, no. I wasn't even sure what I was going to do once I graduated. Once I graduated, I still was working full-time, in the kitchen. So I really didn't know how it was going to go until I found my first DTR job. I just happened to be looking online.
Okay, perfect. Let's jump over to that. So you finished this remote schooling. You passed the NDTR exam. You're looking for jobs. How did that go for you?
I was really worried. I was so worried I wasn't going to find anything, like at least not specifically for my degree. I thought, at that time, most people that I spoke to that heard of diet techs, they were like, oh yeah, so you take menus in the kitchen. And that's what I was doing at the time. I was like, I really hope that's not, all I can find. I mean, that's a great job.
It is. But you have more
education
now and you are qualified to do more than that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I just happened to see a listing that specifically said DTR. And I was like, what is this?
What was it? Tell us.
So it ended up being working in an outpatient setting attached to the hospital. So I did some inpatient stuff, but I worked in an OBGYN clinic and I did the intakes for all the pregnant women that went into the clinic.
Nice. So with that process, how long did it take you to find a job that was actually like for NDTR in your area?
Of serious looking, I would say it was maybe like 6 months I was looking.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of took my time. I got married somewhere within that. So I had a wedding and all that. So I wasn't like right out of the gate since I was working full time. I wasn't like, okay, I need to find something. But, I put my feelers out there. And then there was probably about 6 months of serious, okay, like I want to actually further this of looking.
That's good though, just to know that like it may take time to find something. So that job was in your area. So what are you doing now? Are you still in that role or what kind of, keep us going with the story.
So I was there for 2 years. I absolutely loved that job. It was a little bit far for me. It was a little bit closer to the city. So like an hour drive for me. And then I had my son and I just couldn't make the commitment to the commute. But I left on great terms with them. They were like, if you ever want to come back, if we have anything that, we can set up for you, like we'd be happy to. So it was a really great job and excellent first job as a DTR. I can't even believe that I got into that role. Like there was definitely days that I was working and I was like, I can't believe this is my job, which is really
incredible.
Cool.
It's incredible. Yeah. So you're working with postpartum or pregnant moms, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And then fast forward to my role now, I now work as a lifestyle coordinator for a weight management center, and that's completely remote. So I just speak with people that have been referred by their primary care doctors, and I tell them about the programs that we have, and I find a good fit for them.
Nice. So was that specific? How did you land on that job? And do you feel like you're using your NDTR credential well in that role?
Mm-hmm. So actually, the same company, because I worked for like a company within the hospital that takes care of all the dietary staff. I actually work for the same company. It's just in a different location. Okay. So, I mean, that was really helpful because I kind of know, how the training's going to be and stuff like that. And I just basically had to focus on the new things that I would be learning for the specific role. And I do feel like I'm using my credential. I mean, it's kind of a good balance because I get to meet way more new people than I did at my last job. My last job, I was kind of following up with people more. This one, I only see these people once, but I still get like a nice glimpse into who they are, what they're looking for. And I still can like sprinkle in a little bit of my dietary advice, because a lot of these people are just starting out with weight loss. So they're like, should I be drinking, all this soda during the day? And I can tell them, these would be better options. So I get to sprinkle that in a little bit. Yeah.
I think that's so important too, because I think that's one of the great areas where NDTRs really shine is we can take on these roles like what you're doing, and then we're qualified to like just guide people the right direction, because so many programs like this have people who are there and they're smart for sure, but they can easily misguide. So it's nice that you have that, like, well, let me tell you like what's been studied. Let me show you a little bit of science, but like put it in a simple term for you and set you on the right path. Yeah, that's so valuable. Do not underestimate how valuable that is. Very cool. So that's one role, lifestyle coordinator. How long have you been doing that one?
I just started last month, actually.
Congratulations.
Very new.
That's exciting. But then you also have this personal chef role that you're doing, which is fascinating. Tell us about this personal chef that you got into.
Yeah, so I sort of just started that one too in April of this year. I always had it in the back of my mind, and I think I actually reached out to you at one point like a year ago and felt very inspired by someone that you had on that had kind of like a non-traditional role. And I was like, I'm really looking for something like that. I just need to narrow it down. So I had definitely been thinking about it for a while. And I finally settled on, hey, I love to cook. I love to cook healthy food, which is something that people want, but not everybody likes to cook. Not everybody knows what to cook or wants to plan out their meals. So I decided on that. I, again, researched and saw like what other people were doing it, what the actual like job title, entailed. And I found someone who had been doing it for, I think like 15 years. She has like a Facebook group. So that was a really great resource. I just kind of leaned into that and looked at all the information she had. I reached out to people that were in her Facebook group. So I still really, appreciate having that, because starting out, I was like, how do I start my own business? What do I even do? What's the first step? It was very overwhelming. So having other people that were going through that has been a really nice resource.
Yeah, examples are the best when you're stepping out into a world that you do not understand or know. But just looking at your website, I am like so excited about it, because I just feel like it's a perfect idea that could really be beneficial. You have a consult, they choose your meals, you have a cook day, then you do check-ins, and it just seems very thorough and well put together, and then really personalized. And that's what's so great about being a diet technician or a dietitian, is that you understand the value and the importance of personalization. I know there's bigger companies and programs that do things like this, but there's not that connection. And there's not that local shopping. So, I mean, I just kind of said what you did, but I want to hear it from you, from the creator of it. How did you really hone in to make this something that would stand up against the bigger companies that are doing something similar to this?
Yeah, I think like you said, just the personalization of it. I try to, get to know them. I mean, I'm in their homes cooking. So, for us to at least know a little bit about each other is helpful for both of us. And, I like to do little like treats for the holidays. I have plans for that coming up. So, little thank you gifts. So I know some companies do that too, but not, maybe on the personal level that I'm hoping to give to my clients.
Yeah. And that's something that you can't fake, that's something that is there really a true monetary value you can put on something like that? You know what I mean? This consultation, walk us through, like, how do you do that consultation through the lens of an NDTR? Like, what makes it different that you're an NDTR doing this?
So I start out we do it in person. So I come to their homes for the consultation. I kind of get a feel for a little bit of like their schedule, how things are set up for them. I look at their kitchen and make myself familiar with that. So that when I come in for the cook day, I'm not like, where are your pots? Where are your pans? I try to take care of that ahead of time. And then as far as my questioning, I mean, I just really want to know what they're looking for, if there's any specific dietary needs that I need to be aware of. It's kind of a very fine line. Like, I don't want to say my meals are going to heal your, your diabetes, you're this, you're that. But I want to be mindful of that, and I want to provide them with foods that are going to support them if they have any ailments. So I just want to be mindful of that. And, I won't be like, hey, maybe I'm going to make you, this cheesecake for dessert. If they're diabetic, I'm going to find something that's a little bit more in line with how they're hoping to be eating. They all want to be eating healthier. So I want to help them with that.
That's great. I love that. And I think cooking for somebody and then dealing with the nutritional aspects of it and keeping those in mind, there's so many barriers or so many hurdles that you have to go over. So one, you just mentioned if they have any chronic diseases, like being super mindful of that and acknowledging if cheesecake or a different dessert is going to be a good option. But then you run into their taste preferences, their culture. How do you deal with these other hurdles that I believe as an NDTR you're more than qualified to address and handle? But how do you hurdle those hurdles?
So I have them fill out a very detailed food preference thing. Like, we talk about it in person, but I also want to have it in writing. I don't like spice. I don't like this vegetable. I don't like this fruit. Because I can't remember everything that they like. So I make them fill out this very detailed list of kind of what they're looking for. And I kind of think that helps them to, they might not know what they're looking for until they see the list of foods and they're like, I'm not that picky. And then they're checking off all these things they don't like. And they're like, oh yeah, I guess I am a little picky.
Adults are so picky. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it also is a challenge too, because I'm cooking for a lot of families. So we have to take everybody's tastes into account.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have, without giving away any information about the person, do you have a recent situation since you've had this business where you really had to work through any of these challenges specifically, whether it's a chronic disease or taste preferences or food allergies or anything like that?
I honestly haven't had anyone too difficult yet. I'm starting out pretty slow. So, I know over time, of course, I'm bound to meet someone who's a little bit of a challenge. But thankfully, I'm nearing the end of my first year and haven't had anyone yet. So
that's good. So with the first year kind of coming to a close, what would you tell yourself at the beginning of the journey if you can go back and talk to yourself about what to expect or what to work on?
I think I would have told myself to just start it a lot sooner, because I definitely held myself up with, I can't start yet because I don't have the right color scheme. I can't start yet because I don't have this set up. I would have just focused on the basics and believed in myself a little bit more and just got it done a lot sooner.
Wow, that's good. That's good. Just dive in and do it.
Yes.
So you're juggling these two jobs right now. What is the goal for you long term with what you're doing currently?
So I always thought that I would have a remote job. That was kind of my ultimate goal. Even before my personal chef stuff came into play. In an ideal world, I would love to continue both of them, but I do want to continue to my RD credential. So hopefully working remote and having my own clients. But also still, at least on the side, doing some of the personal chef stuff, because they kind of go hand in hand. So
yeah, I can't imagine how it's so helpful to know all these recipes and food preferences and be able to apply that to your one-on-one care with patients. So remote, let's go back to this idea of remote. And what would you tell an NDTR when they're looking for a job?
What to think of when you're looking for a job? Well, I would just be very gracious with yourself when you're looking for remote jobs, because it can be very intimidating when you're applying for a job and you see that 700 other people are applying for the job. It's a hit.
I didn't even think about that. Your competition pool, just
yes.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's scary, actually.
Yeah. And it's you think, okay, well, I'm never going to hear about this. So I would definitely just be gracious, because I feel like everybody wants to work from home now. At least most people want to work from home. So they are very competitive. And there were tons of jobs that I applied to that I did not hear back. But just be gracious with yourself, and just know that the right job will present itself to you as long as you're looking. And then, since I just started at this job, honestly, I love it. The schedule is great. I did train for about 3 weeks in person just so they could make sure I knew what I was going to be telling clients and I knew the ins and outs of the programs that they offer. It's definitely very different than than anything I've done before because it's very, I mean, it's just me. Like I have to manage my schedule. I have patients on my schedule and I just have to make sure I'm doing everything that I need to be doing within the time frame. So it is a little different.
Yeah. So would you say you lose some of that accountability of like being in an office when you're working remote, or would you say it's just a different type of?
Yeah, I would say it's just a different type. I don't know, the office life for me, like the small talk and stuff like that was never like I like working with other people, but you know, a lot of the office, like small talk, or sometimes, God forbid, there's like drama in the office. That's not anybody's cup of tea, I think. So I've always liked, ever since I was in my online program, I liked working, you know, on my own time, making sure that I was still getting stuff done, but just kind of working on a little bit more of my time. So,
So with that, what characteristics or traits do you feel that you possess that make you good at remote work?
definitely just the time management. I mean, that's a big thing for people. Not everyone can hold themselves accountable to that. I'm extremely organized. Everything is color coded everywhere in my house, in my,
Yes.
yeah, with school, with work. So, making sure that I'm organized and managing my time appropriately is like the two biggest things I can think of that keeps me on track.
Okay, so that's good to know. So if you're listening as an NDTR, these are traits that if you don't have, you might want to chase, or if you do have, maybe remote is good for you. And so let's go back to that search for those looking for a remote job. Because it's hard to just look for an NDTR remote job. Just if you look at that, you will get discouraged for the lack of jobs. So what were you looking for in the job description that you felt qualified enough to put an application in?
I mean, I was looking for anything that was like within the nutrition realm,
Okay.
even if I necessarily wasn't using my credential. I had applied for, it was scheduling, but specifically for an RD's practice. So I had applied to that. Yeah. That was when I actually got an interview for. It just didn't work out with the schedule. And then there was another one that was actually based out of Great Britain, I believe. And they were looking for someone who would.
Wait, like a different country, Great Britain?
Yeah,
Am
yeah.
I like thinking correctly? Like, is there a Great
Yeah.
Britain? Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and it was like
Wow, that's thinking outside the box. Just different country. Okay, sorry,
yeah.
I just got excited from that.
And it was I can't remember the name of the company, but it was a company that did testing, and they were testing your gut microbiome and stuff. And they basically just wanted someone who would answer general nutrition questions about their testing and stuff like that. So there was things that I never even would have thought of unless I saw them online. So there are a lot of, you know, virtual jobs out there. It's just kind of sifting through the ones, you know, that would be interesting to you and that are offering what you're looking for. And like I said, it is really hard with the competition. There's a lot of applicants. So
Yeah. So then with addressing that competition, you look for the jobs, you find something related to nutrition, which I think that's a great just practice in thinking outside the box, just seeing all the opportunities in nutrition that are out there. But when you were applying for your jobs, how did you try and make your application stand out to combat some of that competition?
I mean, I think overall, you know, I've been working in the nutrition field for 10 years. So, you know, just having that front and center, just showing that I do have the experience. I do usually highlight on the fact that I like connecting with people. So, you know, I really enjoyed connecting with the patients that I saw in the OB clinic. I love connecting with the patients I see now. And I think I just, you know, try to be as compassionate as possible because almost every patient that I've ever met in my life is going through, you know, a very serious time in their life where they're just very overwhelmed. So just trying to be like in tune with that. I tried to make that come across in my applications as well.
So just genuine, just be your genuine self, it sounds like. Okay. Wow. So 10 years working in nutrition, and you've done so much. You've done the remote schooling, you've worked with pregnant moms, you've worked with in food service, you started your own business. Um, you still want to progress to the RDN credential. So what is that longing to continue furthering your education in nutrition?
So I fell in love with the OBGYN clinic, and I really would love to specialize in women's health, and I would love to see my own clients all the way through their pregnancy and not just, doing their intakes or following up to, I would also check like their blood sugar logs. Like I want to follow them all the way through their pregnancy. I would love to follow them through postpartum too. So that's really kind of my end goal, I think.
That's exciting. And it's cool because during schooling you didn't know what you want, but that first job kind of gave you that let you find the true passion in that you have for nutrition. So what is there any advice or tips that you'd want to give to an NDTR listening to this podcast?
I would say keep your mind open to pretty much anything. Don't narrow yourself down to what you think you want to do, because a lot of companies are really starting to embrace the NDTR credential. My current job, I'm the first DTR that they're employing, and the manager of the nutrition department came and met me on my first day, and she's like, "We're so excited for you to be here. We're so excited to see what the NDTR credential can do." So just keep your minds open, because I feel like a lot of jobs are coming now that a lot of companies are going to start embracing our credential.
That honestly, I'm so excited hearing that. You mentioned back in 2017, people didn't really know about the credential, but it's crazy how much has changed. And honestly, it hasn't been that long. So it's really exciting to be an NDTR in this time because of the opportunities. And then people like you coming on and sharing and thinking outside the box. You have to think outside the box if you want to be a successful NDTR. I don't see any other way to be able to thrive as an NDTR unless you really are ready to put your foot out there and try something different and speak up for yourself. You spoke up at that other job. Even in this job, you're representing NDTRs and paving the way for so many other people. So thank you so much for what you're doing. I really, really appreciate you, Ashley. How can people find you, connect with you, or just find you on social media and learn a little bit more about you with what you put out online?
Yeah, so my Instagram for my business is nurturing_plates. And then I also have a Facebook, Nurturing Plates, and my website, nurturingplates.com. So anyone can feel free to reach out to me, message me, say, "Hey, I heard you on the podcast." I would love to read your messages.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you for being a resource to the NDTR audience. And lastly, I just want to give you the mic. No question, no prompting. Anything else on your heart that you want to share?
I just want to say that I can't believe, like I said, a year ago, I think I reached out to you and was so overwhelmed and didn't really know where my career was going. And I was so inspired by some of the people that you have on your podcast. And I really appreciate you using your platform to speak about our credential. It has meant a lot to me, and I'm sure it means a lot to other people as well.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate you coming on. Honestly, can't do this without people like you because you guys are the ones that are making the inspiration happen. I'm so happy to be able to meet you. And thank you so much for listening to the podcast, audience. If you have any questions, you know how to reach out to Ashley, or you can contact me. And if you are feeling a little bit extra generous today, we would love if you leave a review, give us a 5-star rating if ever you're listening to this podcast. We would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and we'll see you in another podcast.